Yes, so I think Emily, it's floor is yours, and you can start sharing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maureen and Maeva. It's such a pleasure to be with you all. And excited to share a little bit about our journey with Pantys. I think within the Cartier Women's Initiative community, can you see my screen? Did it go? Okay,
For me, it's black right now.
let's try. Can you see
Oh
now?
no, yes, now I
Yes,
can.
perfect.
Okay, perfect. Within the Cartier women's community, I think that Pantys may be one of the consumer brands that has the most social media following. So just to introduce myself, I'm Emily Ewell. I'm the founder and CEO of Pantys. I'm a 2023 Cartier Fellow. I'm from the United States originally, but based in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I've been living here for about 10 years. And I founded Pantys 7 years ago as the first menstrual underwear brand in Latin America. For those of you that aren't familiar with menstrual underwear, you can see here it's underwear that looks and feels just like normal underwear, but has the capacity to absorb menstrual fluids, and it's reusable. So it kills bacteria, kills odors. It's actually more functional than normal pads or tampons for menstruation. And it's exciting because it's a new category. We're building a new market. And in order for us to do that in the digital space, we really have to focus on building community and building what we like to call a love brand. So that's a little bit what I wanted to share with you all today about our journey doing that. And would love to hear from you as well in terms of your thoughts and experiences on brands that you love and why you love them. I think that that's something that we spend a lot of time thinking about because it's as a brand, it's hard to kind of step out of that professional business mindset and think about, how can I humanize the brand and how can I make the brand really relatable and close to the communities that we work with. So just to give a little bit of background, what is the problem that we're solving in the market, and what's the problem with the period market today? Well, we see kind of three key problems that we really wanted to address as a brand, and I always think it's important to make sure that whether you have a product or a solution, that you're actually solving real problems in the market, that you can't just innovate to innovate, but actually innovate to create a solution that people need and want. And so I think the biggest challenge that we saw when we did research is a quality of life perspective. So most menstrual products leak, and that creates a lot of anxiety, insecurity. They're not very comfortable. So when we look at the quality of life, the consumer experience, 98% of consumers that we talked to said that they weren't 100% satisfied with the products they use. On the other hand, we see that per consumer, about 16,000 menstrual products are consumed. Those take more than 500 years to decompose. So it's an enormous amount of waste that's generated in the market. And on the other side, we see at a macro level a huge challenge in terms of affordability and access. So over 500 million women globally lack access to menstrual products. In Brazil, 1 in 4 women lack access, so it's an incredibly high number. But you look at even the UK and the US, you're looking at 1 in 8 or 1 in 10. So it's kind of a challenge when you see a market that's focused on disposables, and many people don't even have access. So when we look at reusable products, that has a huge opportunity to give access for years to women and girls that don't. And on the other side, something that for us is kind of unique is that menstruation is very taboo. And so when we launched the brand, we were the first communication in this region to have red blood in our videos and our communication to really represent menstrual blood in a transparent way, not with that blue liquid that we're all remember seeing many years ago. And our video was actually banned by Google, and we had a lot of challenges with the red blood at the beginning when we launched the business. But it did actually resonate a lot because it was kind of shocking for people to see that. And now many brands have followed us, since that time, both in Brazil and in other markets. So today we consider Pantys a leading fashion femtech brand in the world. We're also a certified B Corporation, so really focused on impact both on the social and environmental side, and I'll share a little bit more about that. And we've really evolved to be more than just menstruation. So although we launched with a focus on a very specific market segment, we've grown to now include maternity products, incontinence products as well, which can be for a large variety of ages. And today we have one of the largest portfolios in the world in our segment, whether it's maternity, swimwear, fitness wear. We have a line focused on first menstruation. We have a line in collaboration with Johnson & Johnson focused on the pharmacy channel. We have trans boxers for trans men who menstruate. And so we've really expanded our portfolio and focused on data and feedback from the customer to do that. And not just looking at how many hours they use the product and overall feedback in terms of reviews, but also critiques and things that they think maybe why it's not meeting their needs. And I'm a big believer in co-creating with the community to innovate and not using market research companies or doing huge surveys, but actually just listening to individual customers. Sometimes it's kind of, you need the data side, but you also need those really deep insights and that quality of that feedback. And so a lot of our innovations that we've launched, and one of the reasons that we have one of the biggest portfolios in the world, have come from our customers. So, for example, our nursing bra was the first absorbent leak-proof nursing bra in the world. And that came from a customer who was a mom. She was using our underwear for postpartum. And she said, well, why can't you use the technology in nursing bras? Because, I use these pads, they're disposable and they fall on the floor and they're double the price of menstrual pads. And we said, okay, well, how about we pilot a product and send to you and see what you think? And we did that with several customers. And the same with the trans boxers. We had a lot of feedback over the years of either women that said they don't identify with very feminine style underwears, or trans men saying, I love the concept of Pantys. I would like to use reusable products, but I don't have there's no products that I can wear. And so we actually co-developed with some influencers and some people from our own community to develop this product. And I'll share more about that campaign as well. So today we have one of the only clinically approved technologies in the world. Our technology is patented in Brazil, in the US, and in Europe, in a number of different markets. It kills 99% of bacteria. It can be used over 100 washes. And I think that when we talk about clinically approved, I just wanted to highlight this briefly. What does that mean? Well, everybody remembers the COVID vaccine and how we had to wait patiently for all of the vaccines to go through clinical trials before we could try them. So most medical products or pharmaceutical products, and me having a background working in the pharmaceutical industry, have to go through these tests to prove that they're safe and effective. Those are the two kind of minimum standards that you have to meet. And our product, because it's regulated as an apparel product, doesn't have to go through any type of health certification. And so for us, that wasn't acceptable. And we decided that we really wanted to go through clinical studies of our product to prove that it's safe and effective. And we also did quality of life studies. And so that means that basically gynecologists followed patients using our product to confirm that it maintains your vaginal pH, that it maintains the microflora of the vagina as well in the intimate area, that it's breathable, that it regulates the temperature as well of the intimate area. So things that gynecologists really care a lot about. And I think that it's very rare to see a brand that wants to self-regulate. But I think that for us, it's a way of showing our values and also showing that our value proposition is health, although we are kind of fashion apparel focused, that is something that we really we believe in. And so when, after we launched the business in 2017, we started to get a little bit of challenge around, people as a digital brand, how is it a diaper, basically? Is it a diaper for menstruation? And so I put this, here's kind of a comparison, expectation and reality. And we really needed to break that barrier of the kind of, perception of the product, and not just taboo of menstruation, but taboo around reusables in the menstruation space. And so we said, well, how about we launch a pop-up store on one of the more well-known streets in Brazil. Kind of, I joke, it's like the Champs-Élysées of Brazil, a shopping street that everyone knows. And so we launched a pop-up store just to provide access to our product and kind of a cool, fun space for them for women to see our product. And here you can see, our first stores, they're set up as like a women's bathroom. So very conceptual, very fun, very scenographic, and really with the objective to create community and not have an overly commercial space. And it was a huge success. It really helped a lot break the taboo around the product segment. Most women came in, the first thing they did is they touched the product with their hands. They wanted to see, is it like a diaper, basically? And then we found that the kind of the scenographic cool space, what it did was it created not just an opportunity for community where people could come in and talk about their first menstruation or talk about their cramps or talk about, their experience, which we did see a lot, but it also became a very Instagrammable space for communicating in the digital channel about the brand and about the concept and about the product. So we had a lot of influencers and even celebrities that came to the store and kind of created content and then also shared that content online. So it became a way to make the brand more viral without us necessarily paying huge celebrities an enormous budget to talk about the brand and talk about the product segment. I think another strategy that we did that I think is also important in terms of relevance and kind of trying to create that brand love is looking for collaborations. And we've done a lot of collaborations over the years, and we love collaborating as a brand. I think that in this type of model, we enter as more of a technology partner. And so we say, we have a liner technology, and we can kind of plug and play this technology with a number of different brands. So Farm, which is a Brazilian brand, but is now expanding very quickly in other markets, has now been a partner of ours for 4 years. We also have a really amazing project with them in the Amazon with the Ewells that we donate products to the women there. And we'll be going with Farm there in May this year, which is very exciting. Sempre Livre, which is the Brazilian Stay Free brand from Johnson & Johnson that I mentioned before. And this is a product that we have focused on the pharmacy channel. Rip Curl, surfwear brand. We've now done 2 years, and they've already confirmed a 3rd year next year that we're going to be launching a swim collection with them focused on sports and surfing. And I think that with this, that's really enabled us to enter a lot of different channels, whether it's kind of fashion channels. In Europe, for example, we started working in during the pandemic, as well as more mass market channels like Amazon, for example, or Zalando. So we've been really thankful to be able to, with the ability to communicate the brand in a physical space and partner, been able to kind of plug and play and create mini branded spaces or store-in-stores in a number of different locations. So in terms of building a digital community and a customer segment that's really engaged, how do we do that? And I think that's what I wanted to share a little bit about with you in more detail now around, how do you create a love brand? And when we launched, I think we were the first lingerie brand potentially in this region, but definitely in Brazil, that showed all different types of body types, that showed a more representative kind of ethnic cut of what Brazil is in Afro nation. So we definitely are careful to make sure that we're not using tokenism to have one person that represents this group and one person, but actually be very representative as a brand. And I think that with that, I have people that come up to me and say, Emily, I just want to tell you that Pantys is the first brand that I saw that a body that looked like mine, that I felt truly represented in any communication. And I think for me, that's like such a powerful thing to hear. And I think that for decades, so many people felt excluded from a lot of communication of a lot of brands. And thankfully, the world is changing. And I think that one thing for us with our product segment, and that Duda, my co-founder, and I, we never really imagined how much the product would transform people's lives. And so I think that this is one thing that has created a lot of brand affinity, is that a lot of people after trying the product, and I know all these are in Portuguese, but they basically said, like, I have a new experience with my body. I feel so much more comfortable. I didn't know that menstruation could be this way. And so they're starting to see a new way that they're relating to their bodies, a new way that they're relating to their menstrual cycle. And even this association that, menstruation is not trash. I think that there is, when you use disposable products, there's kind of a psychological association that it's dirty, and that it's something that should be thrown away. And I think that when people switch to reusables, they start to see that it's not actually dirty, and the menstrual fluid, it's different. It's not, it's a pure substance. So it doesn't have bacteria. It doesn't have odors naturally. So I think that that's a transformation to people to have that be closer to their bodies and to be closer to their menstrual cycle. That really is a transformational experience for so many women. And I think that's something that's also, for me, the most important thing for any brand or any company is to think about, why are we here? What is our purpose? What is the value? What is the transformation we're trying to bring to the market or to people? And just be always centered on that why. And I use this also personally for me as a entrepreneur, because when things are going great and amazing and you're on stage with Cartier, you feel like everything's wonderful. I think that your purpose helps keep you grounded. It helps keep you humble. And then when you're going through tough times, because everybody has those tough times where everything seems like it's going wrong, your purpose is what lifts you up and what gives you hope that you're doing this because you're a part of a solution and you're a part of a change that you believe in. And so for us, this is really focused on innovating to improve the health of people and the planet. And as we have come out of the pandemic in the past 2 years, I think there's never been a time where people have recognized the connection between our health and the health of the planet, and that it's really the same thing. So this is just such an important moment for people to be rethinking their habits, to be rethinking their consumption patterns. And it's not an easy business to be in the business of behavior change, which I kind of joke that we are, because people are very comfortable using the products that they're using. So how do you inspire them to do this change? You can't, and I say, well, you can't do eco-shaming. You can't make people feel bad for the choices that they're making that maybe aren't the best for them or the environment. Instead, you have to really focus on education and inspiration and even humor. Humor is something that we use a lot in our communication, to try to really connect with people and open their minds a little bit. And I think, and this is in Portuguese, but I'll share. And I think that one thing that I think about a lot in terms of a philosophy around change, if we look at the kind of old system, you see on one side, government and nonprofits focused at basically 100% on social value, environmental value, and receiving, whether it's taxes or donations. On the other side, you have corporations that are focused 100% basically on financial value, and that they're the ones that are paying taxes or donating as well. And we really see Pantys as a social enterprise. So this is where we have both environmental impact and social impact built into our business model. So the more that we grow financially, the more that we're also scaling our impact. And I think that this is the future. I think it's a different philosophy. In many countries, from my experience, less so in the US, but for sure in Brazil and a number of other markets, there is a big taboo around private sector and public sector working together. And I have been trying very hard in Brazil to encourage public-private partnerships, especially focused on menstrual poverty and menstrual dignity. But it's not easy. I think there is a lot of skepticism around, if you're a business, then you're automatically bad and you're just trying to make money and that's all that matters to you. And so I think really trying to, at least within our ecosystem here, redefine what it means to be a company and what it means what's the responsibility and what's the function of a company in society. And that's something that I really am trying to work on very hard here in building an ecosystem of other brands that also think this way. In terms of environmental impact, we have to date eliminated an estimated 2 billion menstrual products, and we compensate the carbon as well of all the products that we produce. We were the first brand in Brazil to launch carbon labels in the fashion segment. And so all of our products have kind of a carbon footprint associated with them. And this is really important because when we launched, a lot of people said, okay, I understand that I'm avoiding environmental impact by using reusables, but is the product sustainable? Is my Pantys underwear sustainable? And so this also was an initiative that came from the community. And we were thinking and we said, well, if you think about it, no product that you consume is sustainable. There's no such thing as a sustainable product, really. I mean, there could be more sustainable or less sustainable, but anything that you consume is automatically having some type of negative impact on the environment. And so the way that we wanted to bring more transparency around this is actually going through a full analysis or audit internally of our carbon footprint with our supply chain, with our logistics. And, we went through with an internationally certified company that even checked what type of trucks we use to send from the fabric factories to the cut and sew factories. And so it was a really amazing process, and we learned a lot as well. One thing that's stuck out here that I think is interesting is that you can see the use of the product. We even compensate for use and disposal. So it's not just the product, but also the end of life, the full life cycle is pretty high. And I thought, well, 21%, it kind of varied a little bit per product, but still over 20% for use. And that's because detergents that we use for our clothes are incredibly bad for the environment. So we actually launched a coconut-based biodegradable detergent that also has enzymes that breaks down the menstrual blood and in the product, so it actually cleans the product better. And that is now one of our best sellers. So it's interesting how this also opened up doors for us to have more innovation as a brand. And I think that that's where, I want to share a little about, like, what do we believe? And I think as a brand, you don't talk about to your community about the product that you sell. You talk about the problem that you solve, and you talk about things that you believe in. And that's what's going to really resonate with them. And that's what's going to connect with them and bring kind of a momentum behind your brand, make your brand more lifestyle, if that's something that's important to you. And so we are a brand that I would consider activist, and that we do stand up for things. I'm very careful not to align with any type of political parties or engage in politics, because a lot of issues are politicized. But coming from a multinational background and understanding dynamics there, I think it's important not to support individual politicians or anything like that, but to be activists in terms of issues and things that you believe need to happen or that you believe are important. And so probably one of the most activist or key things that we focus on as a brand is around menstrual poverty. And so, globally, we see this as an enormous problem. It's a problem that affects, almost 70% of girls affected by menstrual poverty are minorities around the world. We have a partnership with an alliance from the UN, and we're also part of the UN Global Compact. So we're very engaged in projects around menstrual poverty in Brazil. And we actually launched during the pandemic a digital protest. So I'm sure a lot of people remember the women's marches that kind of started actually before the pandemic, and then they paused for a while, and kind of these huge marches of women in a number of different places around the world to talk about women's rights. And so on the 28th of May, which is the International Day of Menstruation, we launched a huge digital protest with tons of celebrities in the market. We took out a newspaper here in the one of the biggest newspapers in Brazil, saying, this newspaper could be used as a menstrual product, because a lot of women that don't have access to menstrual products are using newspaper. They're using even socks or bread, whatever they have that can absorb menstrual fluid, which can create a lot of gynecological issues as well. We put on an event. We had a lot of brand partners also that we got to talk about the same issue in their social media. So really, within the last probably 3 to 4 years, something that was not a topic is now on TV every May and has become really a topic that people are paying attention to. So we're really excited that we've been able to create a lot of awareness around this issue. This year, we launched to do something a little bit different. We launched a site that's pobrezamenstrual.com, which is like menstrualpoverty.com. And instead of just talking about the issue and bringing awareness to the issue around menstrual poverty, we said, well, let's take it a step further. And we launched actually a business case of how to end menstrual poverty in Brazil by 2030. And so we actually created and put numbers together to show in different scenarios how much money it would take on an annual basis to end menstrual poverty in Brazil, and how that money could be created, how they could carve out that budget. So basically, we proposed that between 3 to 5% of the tax on menstrual products in Brazil to be reverted into a fund to help distribute for people that don't have access. And We did an analysis of more than 10 countries around the world of their public policies around menstrual poverty and distribution of menstrual products. And we provided this analysis to the public sector in Brazil and to everyone, to the public, general public as well. And it was very interesting because a lot of countries like the UK and Canada are actually getting rid of menstrual tax. This is like a big topic in a number of different countries. And Brazil taxes are very complicated. And we said, instead of eliminating the tax, why don't we revert some of this tax into a fund? And then as a second step, a few years down the line, we can look at actually reducing the tax. But really now the problem is getting products in the hands of girls and women that don't have access. And the quantity, the volume is very high of women that need access. So it was very exciting. And in terms of kind of an impact standpoint from the brand, we saw that almost 60 million people were impacted by the campaign. We had almost 3,000 posts and reposts on social media. Many celebrities that engaged, 22 nonprofits that we were able to support, and over 1 million reais in menstrual products donated throughout the years of our Pantys protests, our manifesto. And here's just some examples of some posters. We put posters up around the city as well in São Paulo to generate a lot of engagement. Another example here in terms of what we believe when we talk about menstrual poverty, it's not just about access to products, but also access to education. And so we launched a program in partnership with the public sector and public schools to provide access to menstrual kits of menstrual products, and also content that's more fun and cool, kind of like more social media inspired for the school system, focused on girls and boys that are 13 years old. And this is a picture of me from the end of last year. We've been doing a lot of work with Indigenous communities over the years. Like I said, even with Farm, we've done a number of donations with the Yawanawa, with the Shinanawa, with the Xingu. And last year in particular, and it was a busy year because we had all the Cartier events and stuff as well. One of my biggest intentions was, after the pandemic, to cut back into the Indigenous communities and not just send products and maybe a representative to help distribute the products, but to actually connect with the communities and listen to the women. So I went and participated in the Xingu, is one of the more activist and feminist Indigenous groups in Brazil. There's about 3,000 people. I don't know if you know, but just in the Amazon, there's over 2 million Indigenous people living in the forests. So there's a lot of Indigenous people that don't have access to waste collection, for example, that don't have access to a lot of standard things that we would see in cities around that would make disposable products easier to use as well. And I think that as a founder and as a leader, it's really important that we're directly engaged. It doesn't mean that I certainly can't go to all of the donations that we do, but that we are putting our feet where our mouth is, and that we're participating in the dialogue as well as a leader. And so for me, that was really important to be able to have the opportunity to do that, and to also for me to learn from them and to understand, how we can even improve the initiatives that we have around supporting Indigenous women. And a lot of them, because they live in natural environments, for them to use a Pantys, it means that they're not disposing kind of pads in the Amazon, for example. So it helps both them and it helps the environment directly. So it's really an important focus for us. Something else that we also think about a lot as a brand, and I think that this is a strategy that many brands maybe will use, is around content and creating content and seeing content as a product for consumers. And so here are 2 different portals. We launched a portal around menstruation that was focused on mostly first menstruation, because from our focus groups, most teenagers, they don't want to ask their mom questions about their bodies or about menstrual cycles or even sexuality. And so we have this portal where every article is signed by a gynecologist. And so we have right now almost 2,000 gynecologists connected with the brand. And many of them have offered their time and to help support initiatives like content and, whether for social media, whether for our blog and site. And so it just gives that confidence that it's not just a Google article that's focused on SEO, but it's actually an article that was written and signed by a gynecologist with very high quality content. And we also launched a portal around financial independence for women. And in Brazil, I think almost half of the population doesn't have a bank account. And so people are still using a lot of cash. A lot of people don't have credit cards. A lot of people don't save money. And so we really saw this as a huge opportunity to bring in education, because our product also provides a financial benefit that over time it's actually cheaper than using disposable products. So it's something that for us was very important, to be able to, as we have a product that brings more financial economy to consumers, to also talk about financial independence and responsibility around finance. And just to kind of wrap up, and then I'd be happy to take any questions or discuss as well. I wanted to share a few campaigns. I think that one thing that we've been really recognized as a brand is for creating very strong visual content. And beyond the things that we do and our initiatives and what we believe and projects, you have to have as a brand a very strong visual connection. And they say that pictures can have 1,000 words, can say 1,000 words, and it's really true. We take a lot of time and effort in doing amazing campaigns and communication. So this one was our campaign that we did for the trans men who menstruate. And these are all trans men that actually helped develop the product with us, that tried prototypes throughout each iteration. And we did an amazing campaign with them. It was one of the first times we ever used real people in a campaign rather than using models, for example, or people that are aspiring models. We use a lot of new face models as well, because we need more diversity in our communications. And kind of spontaneously during this photo shoot, we started talking to them and saying, oh, let's have a conversation and just hear from you. And we started recording it and said oh, tell us about your relationship with your menstrual cycle. And what was really interesting is they said, well, so nobody's ever asked me that, not even my family, not even my girlfriends or boyfriends, or nobody's ever asked me about my connection with menstruation as a trans man. And I said, well, isn't that amazing that as a brand we can create dialogue and open dialogue that people aren't having, even with the people that they're closest to in their lives. And this campaign was our campaign that generated the most impact in our Instagram and social media, in PR. And I think a lot of it was because not just the product and the story time behind co-creating a product with the community, but also that dialogue and sharing these stories in a very genuine way. And I think that brands have that potential to really not give voices, but help amplify voices that aren't being heard, or perspectives that aren't being heard in the market as much. So this is another campaign that we did when we launched our incontinence products. Very similar to menstruation, we decided to use yellow liquid to very clearly represent what the product is for, and also women of different ages. I know that kind of ageism and diversity in age is becoming a much bigger focus now for many brands globally. But it's amazing how even for years when people talked about, oh, body positive and diversity, you never saw anyone over 30 years old in a campaign. And so we're very careful to make sure that we include different age ranges as well in our campaigns, that we have women that use the product for many different uses. And for us, it was really impressive how incontinence is so much more taboo than menstruation. It was very hard to get people, even influencers, to talk about incontinence. Nobody wants to talk about having leaks and having, kind of different types of problems with their incontinence. So it's an interesting space. It's a huge space. It's growing a lot. It's actually growing more than menstruation. But there is a lot of education and normalization that needs to happen around that segment as well. So this is an amazing project that we did with a nonprofit in Sao Paulo that focuses on helping people in the kind of peripheral regions or even favelas in Sao Paulo gain skills that they can work and earn money. So it's focused on kind of launching careers for people that live in the periphery. of the city. And we brought to them a challenge that when we work with modeling agencies, all of the models that we find are either kind of extra small, or plus size models. And it's when you look at our distribution of sales, most of our sales are medium, large, extra large, and then it goes to small, and then it goes to kind of the plus size. And so we say, isn't that bizarre that when we look at the market, what sells and what our customers are, is there's no representation of this audience in the modeling agencies. And so we took this to them, and we said, we want to find women from the periphery that want to be models. It doesn't matter if they've had any experience or not. And we created a course together with Vogue to do like a full day in the classroom on teaching and some workshops, and then selected from about 50 women, 20 women that would go forward and do a first photo shoot with us. And we created their first lookbook, which then we helped them get placed in modeling agencies. And it was really amazing because a lot of these women had never modeled before and maybe were interested in it. And the results were just amazing. And the end of the day where we did the lookbook, many of them just started crying because they felt like so valued and seen. And I think that that's just such a beautiful thing as a brand, that we can be helping solve a problem that we have, but also providing such amazing opportunities to people that maybe have never felt that they would ever have that opportunity. So just such a special project. This is a campaign that we did last year that was actually with our team. So these are all girls on my team, and we have a number of different locations between our physical stores and our warehouse in Sorocaba and our marketing team in São Paulo. So we have now 5 different locations for the brand. And it was just, we asked the team, who would like to participate, that we want to help highlight like who is behind the scenes in Pantys. And it was such a fun experience. We even had a girl that was from our team pregnant, and they really just loved it. And I think they also felt very valued and seen as, being a part of the team. And I think that this is something that as a brand, if you can help tell your team story and find ways to make your team feel valued as well in the process, it's just, amazing. And as a brand that we have, 95% of our team is female, even the finance team and everything. So it's just great that we can help show that to the market, that, it's not like myself and a group of men running the company, which, a lot of lingerie brands, and even coming from the pharma space, is incredibly male dominated, even today. So, big fashion and everything. So I think it's just great that we've been able to build such a strong team of women behind the brand. So just to share a few takeaways with you, that when I think about, creating that digital community, creating a movement behind the brand, creating that strong emotional connection and love brand, the first thing that I would say is that, there really aren't any shortcuts, that you have to be real, you have to be authentic, you have to back it up with a lot of consistent work. And in our experience, if you're a brand that tries to stand for something, or, tries to show that you believe in certain things, a lot of your community will look for inconsistencies. And they'll keep you honest. So, and that's a good thing. But you have to really make sure that you're not just doing things for marketing, but doing them because you truly believe them. And all of your activities, whether it's what you're communicating or what you're doing behind the scenes, is aligned with that as well. And I do believe that it's not just what you do. There's many brands of menstrual underwear nowadays around the world, but it's also how you do it that really matters. And, there's that, I think that really makes the biggest difference. And things like, us using biodegradable fabrics, or us, using factories that have, very ethical treatment of workers, and us being very engaged with those factories, it matters a lot. Like going and talking to someone who's sewing your products and saying thank you to them, it makes all the difference for them. And that is something that is very, I think, important for us as leaders and entrepreneurs, not to forget that, and not to think that we're too big or above really making people understand that how we do things matters a lot as well. And I think on the last, be creative, use humor, surprise your stakeholders. So whether it's your customers or partners, and don't forget to have fun. I think that this is really very important. Like I said, we use humor a lot. We are a bootstrapped company, so we have always had to be more creative and have more creativity than budget in everything that we do. But I do think that it creates a lot of fun camaraderie in the team, because we're always trying to think outside of the box and think about how we can do things in different ways. And I think that's actually, it's a limitation that does drive a lot of creativity. And I think that, in terms of building a love brand, obviously press is incredibly important, and making sure that you tell your story and you have other people telling your story along the way. It makes a big difference as well. So if you're doing all this great work, you want to make sure that you have a really strong PR partner as well, to make sure that your story is getting out there and other people can resonate with it beyond your community. So thank you so much for the time. And I'm so glad that I got to share a little bit about our journey with you. And I put my email here if anybody wants to reach out to me directly or set up a call. I'd be happy to talk if you have any specific challenges, on your side that you think that I can help from my experience. But we can stop it there. I know we have Lourdes and Rania here if you guys have any questions. Isa is here too. Great.
I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world.
Yeah, so sweet.
I'm such a great fan of yours and of Pantys, so it's a great pleasure to listen to you. Like, I've experienced all you're saying in firsthand, so I'm a client, I'm a follower on Instagram, so it's great to listen to you talking about it.
No, that well, you also have a strong love brand, so it's great to have you here as well. And I'm interested. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions or thoughts, even reflections from listening, or things that connect with you, or things that you've done with your company that you'd like to add as well, that you think could be valuable for the community.
Yeah, actually, I have a question, Ben. Many of my friends have been using the ministerial cups,
Mm-hmm.
and I bought one and I couldn't actually. Like, I tried it and I just couldn't. So, like, how do you like? I'm sure this kind of question pops up many times. What do you think of the ministerial cups, like, as an alternative to your, like, or to the pads, and in comparison to your product?
So we have also reusable pads, and we have menstrual cups as well, that we launched last year. I think the menstrual cup is a great solution for people that are comfortable with internal menstrual products. So for example, the US and UK, there's certain markets that are predominantly tampon markets. I think that those are great places to transition to the menstrual cup, and that more people there will have comfort with it. But there is a lot of, you don't see 100% of people being able to adapt to a menstrual cup. And so that is where, we say that every menstrual product you use with a pair of underwear. So that's where the underwear becomes kind of a universal solution, because you can use actually together. A lot of people that use menstrual cups also use menstrual underwear because they're afraid of it leaking. And so it's kind of that psychological, like, extra layer of protection. But I think for people that, it's a preference market. And so I always say that we try not to be evangelists as a brand and say menstrual underwear is the only solution, it's the best solution. We try to empower women with the power of choice. So she gets to choose what she thinks is best for her. The only thing that we would say we would recommend not doing is disposables, because it's bad for the environment. They're 90% made of plastic, and they have a lot of chemicals in them. And it's proven that they're not as good for your health or obviously for the environment. So, but now there's reusable solutions for internal, external. There's a lot of different solutions nowadays, and so we try to offer now all of the solutions so that she can choose what works best for her. But not everybody adapts to the menstrual cup. I can use the menstrual cup myself personally, but I would just use it like at the beach maybe, or like on a normal cycle. Like, I'm menstruating today, actually. And today's my heaviest day. Panties for me is fine. Only if I'm like, and we have actually swimwear too, so I would use our product in swimwear. But if it's a really heavy day and I'm traveling or I'm at the beach, I would use a menstrual cup. But for me, it's not as comfortable to use in a normal week, or, you know, if I'm just in the office or something, I'd rather use the underwear. For me, it's more comfortable.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll have to get products closer to you in Egypt. I think that actually Middle East is a great market for us, because I think it's a market where there's a lot of potential. I've seen there's, I think,
Actually,
a few brands.
I've seen
Yeah.
actually reusable panties just like yours in on Facebook in Egypt recently. I should find the page again and send it to you. Maybe, yeah, maybe we can find some collaboration or something. It started to come. It's already here. So I
Yeah.
haven't tried it, but I've seen it. So I don't know
Yeah.
what kind of competition you have around.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. That's a good sign.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that I like about what you said in the takeaway part is being real and consistent, because this is what really makes a difference, in my opinion. Because there are many, I mean, at least in Brazil, we see a lot of greenwashing companies, and with all of these parallel initiatives that you have to back up like your work, that's how you show that you're being really genuine with what you're doing. So I think for me, of course, having fun, it is very important, especially for an entrepreneur, so you don't get crazy. But yeah, you need to be genuine with what you do, and uh, find different initiatives to back up what you're already doing. So for me, this is like the very, very
The core thing.
exactly the core. Exactly.
Oh, that's great. And I think for me, it's sometimes, and I have this challenge with my team too, is that we have so much to communicate around like environmental impact and social impact. And I feel like so many people today are a little bit overwhelmed and stressed by how much negative news there is about, like, you know, chaotic environmental events and like flooding here, and then there's like a volcano erupting in a new island in Japan, and you're just kind of like, what is happening? And so we try to, that's where the creative and fun is really important, because it's so easy to tip serious and like informative, and that over time is not a very pleasant experience for the community. It's important, and I know that the whole team is really engaged in that, but I'm always trying to remind them, like, okay, like, let's not stress people out. And you know, because we talk about a lot of serious things, like even, you know, women victims of violence, and we talk about a lot of different things, but we try to do it in a way that's light and positive and focused on solutions, or focused on you know, how we can take action. But it's a challenge, I think, for impact brands in general. Like I'm thinking about the cardiac community. It's easy to be serious, and but some being lighter and being able to bring in that fun is, I think, really important to grow a brand at a more mass market level. I think it's critical.
Yeah.
So, any other? Oh,
sorry, just one more comment. Sorry to interrupt. And
no.
less thing, but all of this community building, also from what you said, and from what I've experienced, starts within the company, like with the team. So once they feel really empowered and they feel like they're also building the community, they are the founders of the community, and they're how can I say this, amplifying the community and the voice of the community. This is also something that's really powerful and also makes a lot of difference. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. No, I think that's a really good point, and that, you know, that be real and what you believe in, you have to definitely show that within the team. And I think that's a big challenge I know that, so this is one of the unique things about the cardiac community as well, is that one of the requirements is having under a certain amount of funding. And so a part of that is, and that I love also, and you'll see this also connecting with the community, is that everybody has a little bit of that scrappy mindset and is able to do more with less. But part of that is also like, you need to be able to invest in your team too. Otherwise, you start to project a lot of what you believe in, but internally it's kind of like you're trying to hold up the structure and like, so thinking about, ways to make the team feel valued, or, we're going to go do like a tree planting in April for Earth Day, and like little things that help show the values within the community. Like the campaign we did with the team was like super well received, and they had been wanting to do that for years. And we were at the beginning, we were like, well, we just have like 10 people on the team, so I don't think that's a good idea. But then once the team is big enough, you feel like, and we have a challenge where a lot of our people from our team get poached by big companies. And so for me as an entrepreneur, I'm also kind of nervous to be like, you want to support the team and make them successful, but then you also don't want to be like passing them off to bigger brands. And so, and we do a lot of partnerships and stuff. So that is a big risk, but totally agree. And that does come a lot. Unfortunately, as a founder, that is a lot of our responsibility at the beginning, and HR isn't going to do that. You really have to be the one that's kind of like, how can I bring this into the team experience, or, inviting team to events that we do for influencers and stuff. Like, even if it's just, I'm going to raffle 3 spots for this, event with influence. Oh, they love it. Like, it's great. And so it becomes a big benefit for them too. But any final thoughts that you guys want to share? Maureen, Maeva, any thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you so much for this. Like, I think you're doing such a bold work with the menstrual health, but for instance, incontinence, it's something that is not there yet in France, for instance, or it's super medicalized. And you see like women looking like grandmas with no femininity at all, and I think it's such a fake and wrong image to share. And what you shared made me also think of menopause, for instance. Here it's such a taboo. I know some authors are trying to normalize it, but I know like actresses refuse to talk about this because it would make categorize them as old, and being old for a woman is not accepted yet in our society because it's when you become invisible, right? So I really think you're doing such an amazing impact for the visibility of women, and just to own the place. So yeah, great session, really. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for the invitation. And like I said, Maeva.
Oh, no, I just wanted to build up on what Maureen said. So exactly this, and I'm also a huge fan of Pantys, that's for sure. I think the impact that's created is really great, and I've tested many of those products, and I feel like this one is the one that's working best. And so, yeah, I think the fact that you're targeting this to be a love brand is actually really, really working, because you have this factor where you see that the impact is actually real. You have this inclusivity as well, so everyone feels that they are included in this, and I feel like this is kind of like the key to the success. So I hope that everyone here who attended the session really again what they expected and had learned great lessons from you. Thank you again so much for coming.
No, well, thank you so much for the invitation. And like I said, happy to leave my email and contact for whoever watches this afterwards and wants to reach out and schedule time or shoot me an email. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Before I release you, Rania and Isabella, I don't know if you see the poll that I'm launching, but if you do see the poll, it's just 2 questions for you because we try to collect data as much as possible. So yeah, just take a minute to answer, and then you can go back to your day.
I tried to click, but it says this bot is disabled. Contact your IT admin for more information.
Yeah, me too. I've seen it, but I cannot access it.
Okay. Okay, well that's that.
The answer is yes. Like
yeah.
We can do a manual poll. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and yeah.
Have a great day.
That was
Look
great.
forward to connecting soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye. Have a great week. Bye.
You too. Bye.